Hello and welcome back to Knockhill as we get ready for the second TCR UK race of the day. And an interesting twist with this one, as the grid is based on the driver's second fastest lap from qualifying and the top 10 being reversed. Now, this is a great opportunity for drivers who struggled in qualifying to get a good result and promises to produce a fair amount of drama as the faster drivers start to pick their way through the field. But before we head trackside, let's catch up with a few stories around the paddock. Well, I'm here with Darryl Wilson. A bit of damage to your car. Talk us through race one.
It was a bit damp to start off with. I had a good start. I think I got to like 5th place. Ran wide because I was the guinea pig of the front of the pack, of the second pack, I should say. And then one by one, who was in the lead of that pack kept on coming off the same corner. So, I managed to get back up there, but had an incident on the last lap with someone who a lap down. We had to come in together and put me off in the gravel, but I managed to get back out. But I'm looking forward to race two, I should say. Start second, so obviously we got the pace. I just need to get my head down and try to get a clear lap in and keep pulling a good gap out on all the rest of them.
Well, Finley Crocker, that was a race that had everything for you.
It certainly did. We had the confusion of the start, and then we got going and lost a place immediately, got a place back again. As soon as we came out the first corner, the car in front, he ran wide and my screen was just covered. I couldn't really see anything, and it got worse as we went along. The car had the speed, and ultimately, for whatever reason, part of it just missing braking points. I made a couple of mistakes, went off. Safety car restart. I was trying to avoid getting lapped again. Not what we wanted in our home race, but it was entertaining for all the wrong reasons.
And what about looking ahead? What's the crowd been like for your point of view?
It's great. It's great to see at anything other than a BTCC or a BSB race here a crowd of this size. I've never seen as many people, so I think that's really encouraging. It's really positive, and it just shows the draw and the potential of these cars in this championship.
Well, Josh Price, talk us through race one and your thoughts ahead of race two.
We started at the back row, flat bang last on the grid, made up a few places at the start, picked a way through. Eventually got up to third, even ran into second for a little bit, so I think we did a real good job of what we had, really.
And race two, you've got another challenge ahead of you. Yeah,
we're starting a little bit further up this time, so we should benefit from that. Aiming to try and go with Dan in the VW, that's the ultimate goal. But we'll see how we go and see what our pace is like throughout the race.
Now, I know you're used to racing this circuit clockwise. What's it like for you coming here and going anti-clockwise?
It's a bit weird. It's with any if you speak to anyone in the paddock, they'll say if you do a couple of laps around the track, you pick it up fairly quick. But it's them first 2 laps that really throw you out of. You think you're going the wrong way and you're going to meet a car coming head on. But yeah, once you get your first session under your belt, it's pretty good. It makes for good racing and I suppose for good viewing.
Well, as we've seen from the first few races of this season, TCR UK consistently provides close, exciting racing throughout the course of the field. But what makes up the DNA of these machines? Earlier this weekend, we were given a guided tour of a TCR race car from Derek Palmer Jr.
Hi, my name's Derek Palmer, and today I'm going to show you around my Alfa Romeo Giulietta TCR car. So TCR is a relatively new regulation of touring car racing. The engines are based on the 1.8 standard road car engine that we have in the Giulietta road car, and all the cars up and down the paddock are based on the road engine. They're then equalised through how much power they can run through the turbo and weight, and so we're all roughly the same speed. If we come down to the front end here, we can see that we run a front splitter and all the air intake, so we've got a bit of front downforce to sort of suck the car onto the road. And then if we step round here, you can see we're running on 13-inch brakes, which are pretty big brakes, as most road car wheels are probably around 15-inch. So we obviously need a much bigger tyre for that and a bigger wheel. So therefore we've got these nice wide arches that make the car look pretty badass, I think. And if you come around here, we can step into where the magic happens, which is in the cockpit. So this is the inside of my race car. As you can see, it's a bit more sparse than you would have in your road car. So I've got no leather seats, no air conditioning. But what I do have is I have a 6-speed sequential gearbox, which is operated on behind the wheel here. We've got 3 pedals, brake, accelerator, and clutch just in a road car. And this lever here is actually a handbrake. Now it's not for doing handbrake turns, which would be cool, but it's actually for launching the car off of the line. So when we do a launch, we have a launch program in the car. We pull back on the stick here once we're in the launch program. That puts the rear brakes on in order to load the car up so we can get the most optimal launch possible. Because in touring car racing, it's so close. The start is so important for us. Also in here on my steering wheel, which comes off, you can see here I have all the buttons. So I've got the radio to talk to the team, my pit lane speed limiter, my indicators, so if you're on a qualifying lap, you can put them on to move out of someone else's way or get someone out of the way. This is for the launch control, which I mentioned earlier. The dash changes the display I see here, so I can have a qualifying mode or a race mode to show me more where my delta is for my lap time, and the delta is how close you are to your current fastest lap, whether you're faster or whether you're slower. And then I've got my wipers, my washers, and flash of the lights, which is really useful in a race. Instead of having to press the button multiple times, you just press it once and it flashes about 20 times, so it gets people out of the way. Okay, so now we're at the back of the car. As you can see, we have this pretty big rear wing. It generates so much downforce that we have to actually tether it onto the rear of the car. So we had the front splitter at the front to generate downforce, but we also have one at the rear just to help stabilise the car and give us a higher corner speed than you would get. We also have a rear diffuser, and again, the body works wider at the back in order to compensate for the slightly wider platform and the bigger tyres. So yeah, that's about all there is to the TCR car.
Well, so far this season, TCR UK has attracted a number of drivers from overseas, including brother and sister Andreas and Jess Backman. So to find out more about them, I caught up with the Swedish siblings. Well, we saw that you two at Silverstone, as you know. We weren't necessarily expecting you back here for the next round, but you're both here, Jessica and Andreas. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you here. And in Scotland, is it your first time here in Scotland?
No, I have been here before when it was on a karting race for a few years ago, so it's nice to be here again.
Right, and we brought the sunshine today, but who knows what's going to happen on race day. So, both of you, let's have a quick recap. How did you both get into motorsport?
That my uncle, he's a good rally driver, and he's doing a rally, and then we was watching his racing then, and then after that we went to try a karting school. Yeah.
So you watched your uncle racing, and was it the same for you then, Jessica?
Yeah, it's same for me also. We've always been on his races when he's racing in rally and rallycross and stuff, so that's all.
Well, and you got the bug, you just thought, I want to have a go, or was it just you like the environment?
Yeah, it was really nice environment, and we are really interested in motorsport in our family, so it was quite natural for us.
So when you said you want to get into motorsport, the whole family went, yes, here you go, here's some keys. Now let's talk about racing together. So you've done kart racing, both of you, but you also had a little moment in a different form of racing last year.
Yes, last year we did rallycross, and then we raced against each other, because in karting we never really did it, because he was driving in a class higher than me always, so we don't compete against each other. But then in rallycross we had to do it, but it works quite well anyway.
So now rallycross, short races, but they're very high octane, and here you're doing half-hour races against each other. So what's it like competing against each other? Do you still love each other at the end of a race?
Yeah, it works fine for us. We are quite friendly with each other, so it has worked out well so far. So.
And do you help each other out on track, or do you like to just hold all your own cards to your own chest?
No, we always try to help each other as much as we can, so both of us goes forward in the race. So yeah, it's important to help each other when we are brothers and sisters.
Absolutely. Now, every circuit you go to, you were saying to me, pretty much every circuit that you go to is a new experience. This is the first time you've raced or you've been to Knockhill. So what are your impressions? What do you think of Knockhill?
Yeah, I think it's a great circuit. I really like it. It's a lot of flowing corners and up and down, and it's really nice track, so I really like it. Yeah.
And the scenery is something you're used to, though.
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
And let's cast our minds back very briefly to Silverstone, because first time out for TCR UK ever, and you were involved. But what was it like? What was the Silverstone experience like? Let's start, Jessica.
Silverstone was very nice to drive, but I was a bit nervous first because I didn't really know how a start will be, like how you do a start and how you get the lamps and everything. But then when I did the first race, it felt much better for the second race. So I think it will feel even better now for this race, so yeah.
And yourself?
Yeah, it was a really a great experience. I really liked it, and yeah, and my result was also much better than I thought before the weekend started. So
Yeah, you had that horrible moment though, didn't you, where you finished 4th and then were bumped up to 3rd and then straight back to 4th again. But that second race, you came out and got 2nd outright.
yeah, the race 2 it was really good. I got a good start, and after that Dan passed me, and also Moffat also. But then in the end I finished 2nd, so it was really a great race.
Lovely. Well, I don't want to hold you up too much. I know you've got to get ready for today's qualifying. But thoughts for this weekend? What's going to happen?
It's very hard to say because the weather can change anytime, so it's hard to say. But at the moment, it looks really good for us. So it's just keep working, and hopefully we'll have a good weekend.
I know you were looking at a bit of the track down the bottom there, so you're still trying to get your head around some of these turns.
Yeah, I still try to focus on the driving, so I try to get even better now for qualifying and see if I can get a good lap together. So
We'll keep an eye. Thank you very much there to Jessica and to Andreas. Yeah, well, Andreas saying there in that little chat that he was interested in the weather, the changeable weather. Well, I've got to say, it's been pretty nice here the last 2 days at Knockhill in Scotland with these beautiful mountains in the background. And we've got our new pole sitter here right now, Sean Walkinshaw, car number 55. Sean, more familiar with the rear-wheel drive cars in the GTs, and you're here sitting in a front-wheel drive car in touring car. Your 2nd race ever. You did pretty well in race 1.
Yeah, race 1 went well. Got a good start, but the opening laps were a bit messy. But yeah, just buckled down, did some consistent lap times, and managed to work our way up the field, which was nice.
And now you're sitting here on pole position, just looking behind. You've got some pretty quick cars behind you, Darrell over your shoulder. You've got Lewis right behind there, but way back in the distance, you've got likes of Dan Lloyd, Aidan Moffat as well.
Yeah, you know, I'm quite confident on race pace. It'll just be purely if I can get the tyres warmed up quick enough, which is not what I'm really used to. So if I can get that done, I'm pretty sure I can hold off the 2 behind. As you said, it's probably Lloyd and all them that I might have to worry about at the end of the race.
What is your race plan? What is the game plan ahead? If you look straight down that long hill ahead of you before that hard left-hander, is it a case of get the car there first, stick it in and then push on?
Yeah, just send it. You know, I've got nothing to lose really. I'm not doing the full championship. It's my only race, so try and get on the podium, and that's the only aim really.
Try not to damage the car as well. Thank you very much there, Sean Walkinshaw. Starting on pole position, as I move further back here, Lewis Kent is just about to get into his car. I've seen Gordon Shedden around here today. Actually, he's just come straight back from Germany, where he was racing in WTCR, the WTC Cup. Let's have a look at Lewis Kent. He's just getting his lid on. Lewis, sorry to jump into this moment here while you're getting all prepared and things, but race 1 didn't go to plan, but this is a chance for you to start afresh. And looking ahead, you've only got 2 cars ahead of you.
Yeah, if we can get a launch like we did off the last start, it's a very good chance I could be in first by the first corner, but could go anyway, anything could happen, as we saw in race 1. But no, we're hoping to get out front, push on from there, and just hopefully leave everyone else and get out by ourselves and hold it from there.
And it is a real learning curve, isn't it? Every single circuit you're coming to is a learning curve with the guys behind as well. So what can you learn from race 1?
Yeah, it is a big learning curve for this. Race 1 just taught me that I had no vision on my windscreen anyway, so it didn't help. But yeah, just try and keep it, rather than going all over the place and hitting wet stuff as well as dry. Just try and keep it on the on the grippy bit. But no, it was a bit of my fault and a bit of I couldn't see as well. So but no, hopefully it goes better in this one.
You get your head straight, get in the car. Good luck as well. And he talks about not getting on any slippery stuff. Looking down here, it's pretty dry. In fact, it's a completely dry circuit now, which makes things a lot easier. Jessica Beckman starting nearer the front, so that's an interesting one to watch out on. We've got Aidan Moffat there walking from the back to the front. Now, he starts at the very, very back of the grid. The reason Aidan starts at the back of the grid is because during Parc Fermé conditions, obviously the teams aren't allowed to work on the cars, but Aidan decided to neutralise Parc Fermé from that first race. He broke his drive shaft, so they decided to take the car out of Parc Fermé, neutralising it, which means he starts way back there, where you can see the 16 in the distance. He's got quite a long way to go here on track. We've got a very fast Josh Price. We're really, well, not surprised by Josh at all in race 1, but thinking about how new he is to TCR and how quickly he got to grips with that car, it was very, very impressive. And as we go a little bit further back, Dan Lloyd, because of the way that this race is started, or the way the qualification is set here in race 2, the second fastest lap time for each driver in qualifying with the top 10 reversed. That means Dan Lloyd starts there way back in 10th place. Ollie Taylor here, now starting in 9th. He had a very good first race, finishing second. He knows that he can do some amazing things with that car. And, well, we're about to get ready for this second race. So, without any ado, let's head straight over to our commentator for race number 2. This one is going to be an absolute cracker. Over to Andy.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Yes, race 1 was sensational, quite frankly. Race 2, I think, could be even more entertaining as we get a cracking view of the scenery. We've been mentioning this all weekend, the views that we can get from wherever you stand around Knockhill, up on the spectator bankings, wandering around the paddock. You take a glance to your side and you can see just what a unique part of the world it is. The rail bridge over there off in the distance, Fourth Row Bridge as well, here in Fife, just across from Edinburgh, and remarkably easy place to get to as well. It's wherever you're travelling from in England, particularly travelling north to Scotland. I know it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's well worth the trip up here because it is quite the place. A unique circuit, made even more unique by running in the reverse direction this weekend, of course. That has caught a few drivers out. It's certainly changed the expected running order to an extent. However, there's no doubt about it. Dan Lloyd, in that first race earlier on this morning, put on a clinic again and pulled off to take his 3rd race victory from 3 so far this year. Good to see. Plenty of spectators here this weekend as well, soaking up the sunshine yesterday, trying to find the sunshine here today. There's Aidan Moffat. He will be starting this race from the pit lane, we hear, as a result of that drive shaft change. You can see his car, some work being done to the car by the looks of it down at the far end of the pit lane as he chats to Gordon Shedden, British touring car champion, of course, as Bryn said, off racing in the WTCR this weekend over in the Nordschleife, but not racing today, so he's been able to make his way over to the circuit that he runs, of course, he and his wife Gillian, and Rory Butcher as well, of course, another famous touring car and GT name, all keeping it within the family. They're all related these days, and they all do a great job to look after this place. They've got it looking better than ever. Well, it did look better than ever, and that was before we started racing, because now there's been a little bit of grass cutting gone on that wasn't organised or authorised by either of the Sheddens. But there we go. It's been some good hard racing so far today. As I said, Dan Lloyd won that first race at a canter, but I don't think we're having all that easy in this one. We've got the reverse grid, of course, as the cars lead onto their green flag lap now ahead of the championship. You can see that it's Sean Walkinshaw on pole position. Sean has never, or had never until this morning, raced a front-wheel drive racing car of any sort before. He'd never raced this place in this direction before, and he came from the back of the grid and finished 5th, and now he's on pole position. So he is going to be determined to make the most of this pole position sitting. So he is on pole position. He's got Darrell Wilson alongside him on the front row. Lewis Kent and Jess Backman make up row number 2. Lewis went to watch for here. Finley Crocker, after redemption, after a bit of a bruising first encounter with Josh Bryce alongside him. Then Andreas Beckman, 1, 2 watch for. He's been in the top 4 in every race so far this year, has Andreas, alongside Ollie Taylor, who got his best result so far with a 2nd place in race 1. Then row 5, we have our championship leader, Daniel Lloyd, starting 9th on the grid. Derek Palmer will be 10th, but he also achieved his best finish of the season in race 1. And Aidan Moffat, as we documented, starting from the pit lane, although I have to say he didn't look in a particular rush to get to his car, so I wonder whether maybe there is some sort of issue that means that, unfortunately, one of the local heroes is not going to be starting. We are hearing now a broken starter, so he's not going to be able to get the car started, unfortunately, Aidan Moffat. So he will, well, this is a weekend that's turning from bad to worse, really, for he and the Laser Tools Racing squad. Just the 1 green flag lap this time around, of course, because we're back to bone dry conditions now, but that should not affect the liveliness of the racing. I think this is going to be very entertaining indeed. There's Dan Lloyd. Job 1 for him, I guess, in this race is to keep out of trouble. Starting back in 9th on the grid, that's always fraught with danger, but he'll also be having his eyes fixed firmly on the front. So the red lights come on, the revs start to rise. Round number 4 of TCR UK is go! go. Lights off, off we go towards the hairpin for the first time, and it's a good start by Walkinshaw. Lewis Kent again makes a really good start. He's up alongside Darrell Wilson for second place. He's ahead into second place. So it's Walkinshaw from Kent, the top two, and Lewis already into the back of Walkinshaw, who's sideways. Oh, right in front of the pack. Lewis Kent up the inside of him, but that was very physical indeed. Look at Josh Price coming charging around the outside as well. Two wheels on the grass for Josh Price, but Lewis Kent has the race lead. Walkinshaw second. Wilson just about chops across in front of Price for third, or does he? Josh is up the inside into Clarkson, goes back through. Oh, Finley Crocker's day goes from bad to worse to even worse. He's in the gravel and bodywork damage at least onto the car. But Lewis Kent leads the way. Walkinshaw second. Price is down to third place. One of the Beckmans is fourth. I think that will be probably Andreas, but we'll double check that at the end of the lap, ahead of Darrell Wilson and then Dan Lloyd, who has kept out of trouble despite everything kicking off around him. Now look at Josh Price, he's all over the tail of the other Honda Civic. They don't run out of the same stable, these two, so they're free to race, and he's up alongside to the outside of Sean Walkinshaw, hard on the brakes. Josh will really want to get this move made quickly and go after Lewis Kent, who is already pulling out a decent lead at the front of the field. It is Price third, it is Jessica Beckman fourth, as I suspected, Darrell Wilson fifth, Daniel Lloyd up to sixth already, Ollie Taylor seventh, Andreas Beckman is eighth, and Derek Palmer Jr. in ninth. Finley Crocker has not yet come through at the completion of the opening lap. Back out of Clark's we go then for the second time. So Dan Lloyd gained 3 places on the opening lap, but he's still got lots of overtaking to do. Great to see the cars at full speed now through the chicane, that roller coaster section down the hill. There is Finley Crocker though, and well, he wasn't best pleased when I chatted to him over the lunch break the way that his day had gone. He will not be any happier now. Right, 2 laps about to be completed. Leaders coming back across the start-finish line, and Lewis Kent's lead, well, let's see what it is over the dicing pack behind. It's 1.6 seconds already ahead of Walkinshaw second. Oh, here comes Dan Lloyd. Nice move there. Dan Lloyd dives up the inside of Darrell Wilson. That's another place gain. 5th position now belongs to the championship leader, and now he's got his teammate, the much improved Jessica Beckman, right in front of him. He wants to get past her quickly and get off after the leading 3. Down into Clark's. There is Lewis Kent, the Hyundai that's enjoyed so much success in international TCR racing this year, but Lewis is plagued with mechanical dramas. At the inside of Jessica, that didn't quite pay off the chicane. But yes, Lewis Kent plagued with mechanical issues. He had a clutch issue that blighted his Silverstone weekend. Oh, no more contact there. That's Andreas Beckman into the side of Ollie Taylor's car. Thankfully, they seem to have got away without too much damage. But yes, Lewis Kent will be determined to make the most of this golden opportunity, starting from pole position, leading the race in the early going. Price for second, up the inside of Walkinshaw. Look at the cars dancing around under braking. Fantastic racing between the two Civics, and it will be Josh Price that goes through. And now we turn our attention to the timing screen with interest to see what sort of lap times he can put in now that he's in the air in second place. Kent, I remind you, leads. Price second, Walkinshaw third, then Jess Beckman, still 4th position for her. She is fending off Dan Lloyd at the moment. Keep Dan Lloyd behind her for some time. That is really impressive given the performance we've seen from Dan all season long so far. And it is still Darrell Wilson in the lead of the next pack of cars, if you like, with Ollie Taylor and Andreas Beckman not really making the progress that I thought he might do. Scotsman to go back up towards Douglas, another lap about to be in the books. Here's a replay of the start. Now, look at Lewis Kent. He got a brilliant launch, got second place straight away, and then appeared to come off the brakes a couple of times and just carried a bit more speed into the corner than Walkinshaw did. They made contact, and Sean did well to save the car, actually, but unfortunately wasn't able to hang on to the race lead. That is a shame, because it would have been interesting to see what he could have done. I think he's got the pace when he gets going, just struggling a bit getting used to handling these front-wheel drive touring cars on cold tyres. Right, leaders go through, and it has changed again now because Walkinshaw was third at the line. He's now 5th because both of the West Coast Racing Golfs have gone through. So Jessica Beckman is now 3rd, and Dan Lloyd is 4th, trying to find a way back through as well. Incidentally, Josh Price has just done the fastest lap of the race, 51.945, and he was some 6/10 quicker than Lewis Kent on the previous lap. So less than a lap, I reckon, and we'll have battle joined for the race lead. But look at how close it is through the midfield. This is exactly what we thought was going to happen. The lap times in qualifying and practice, there's nothing in it whatsoever throughout the midfield groups, and that's what we're seeing there, that long train of cars, nose to tail. It really does make quite a sight. Dan Lloyd is 3rd. Dan Lloyd, I see in the background, has gone 3rd as we focus on the leaders who are now absolutely together. But Jessica Beckman made a mistake in the hairpin has handed third place over to a teammate, but this is the fight for the lead then. Lewis Kent versus Josh Price. Josh Price in his second ever TCR race, and Lewis in by far his most competitive showing so far this year. Can he hang on, or is Josh Price going to be able to find a way through? Oh, look at the curb uses. These have been two of the most aggressive drivers all weekend long using curves, particularly Lewis Kent. But we have questioned whether that's the fastest way of driving this circuit. It looks great, but is that the quickest way of getting around? Well, it looks like maybe it's not, because Josh, with a slightly neater line and a slightly neater style, does seem to be closing in. He is right with him now, but this is the thing. It's one thing catching, it is, as the famous saying goes, another thing finding a way through, but that might help because Lewis Kent outbreaks himself with a hair, but he's out in the dirt, and Josh Price leads. Josh Price leads a TCR race in only his second attempt, and the BMR Auto Grim Academy car is in the lead of the race. But look who's coming. Cue the Jaws music, because Dan Lloyd is lapping faster than the pair of them at the moment, and he could well be right with them in the next lap or so. Andreas Beckman's also started to make some progress. There is Derek Palmer Jr. Again, enjoying a real improvement in form this weekend. Slicing away there with Ollie Taylor, who's second in the championship. Derek Palmer really did not have a good time at Silverstone, and it's been really nice to see him mixing it at the sharp end. So as the cars come out of the final corner, back across the start-finish line, they flash past the pits, and they flash past Bryn, who I believe has an update for us.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. A quick update for you on Finley Crocker. He's out of this race. Apparently he had a little tap there from Ollie Taylor, which has bent his steering. So that's why Finley Crocker is now in the pits and retired from the race.
Okay, thanks very much, Bryn. Change for second place, Dan Lloyd. The march to the front continues. He's into second position now. And Lewis Kent, really, there was not much he could do about that. He will try his best to fight back, for sure, but I think Dan probably has the pace to pull away. The question now, though, has Dan Lloyd met his match in Josh Price? Because this is incredibly impressive from Josh, given the fact that, as I keep documenting it, he has so little experience of racing these cars, and he's there leading the race and setting decent lap times. We'll watch the lap times this time through. Josh Price will come across the line momentarily. Lap time of 52.0, Lloyd of 52.2. So 2 tenths slow, but of course he was overtaking Lewis Kent on that lap. So this time round, we'll really be able to get a proper gauge of how their pace matches. I think Lloyd might be quicker, but by how much? And is he quick enough to catch Josh and then make a fairly easy move? That I'm not so sure about. Sean Walkinshaw, he's still running in 5th position. Chris Beckman is the West Coast Racing guy behind. And that is one of the battles that Andreas will be keen to get on top of as quickly as possible, because he can see his chances of a podium finish disappearing up the road. He can also see his sister disappearing up the road. There is Jessica Beckman, 4th position at the moment. Her best finish so far this year, let's have a look, was at Silverstone last time out, and it was a 6th place. So she's already on for her best result of the year. She could be on for her first podium of the year, because she's challenging Lewis now down towards the hairpin. Lewis Kent has to defend the inside line and just about manages to keep it tight on the apex, but you can see what's happening now. Well, Ollie Taylor up the inside of Derek Palmer Jr., and that puts Ollie into 7th, and he spoke to me over the lunch break, and he said, look, I'm here to win this championship. I know what I need to do to win it. Easy, but I really want to win it, and he wants the points as well. Oh, Lewis Kent out wide over the grass there. What came of that? They're about to head down to the chicane, but I wonder whether maybe Jess Beckman's gone through. Yes, she has. Jess Beckman has gone through into 3rd position now, but what I was about to say is that this battle between those two and Lewis Kent not quite having the pace, it's backing the whole field up. Sean Walkinshaw now tries to get alongside him, but it doesn't often end well if you try and run side by side through toughest in either the clockwise or the anti-clockwise direction. So come across the line though, Jessica Beckman now is into 3rd position. West Coast have 2 cars on the podium, but maybe not the combination that they were expecting. Right, Dan Lloyd is with Josh Price now. He has caught the race leader. Something tells me Josh is not going to let this one go without a fight. Let's wait and see. They were overlapping as they headed down towards Clark's, but Dan was going to be on the outside line. No, he's gone through. Dan, how on earth did he do that? Dan Lloyd has gone through into the lead of the race. Well, there we go. That answers my question. No, he hasn't met his match in Josh Price. Josh fought valiantly, but, well, I don't quite know how Dan managed to do that. Anyway, Dan Lloyd is leading the race, and he got there an awful lot quicker than I thought. Less than 10 minutes of this race have elapsed, and Dan Lloyd is already in the race lead. So Lloyd across the line, Price in second place, but he'll now be keen to just sort of watch Dan, watch his lines, try and follow him, see if he can figure out exactly why Dan is so much quicker than anybody else. Yes, the car's well sorted, but the Civic is not slow either. And so Josh will be looking now to try and learn from the most experienced drivers in the field and keep it to get a little bit quicker. So down into Clark they go, snatching a brake. That's just that unweighted right rear wheel as they brake on a turn and on the curb. Lewis Kent in the pit lane. Aidan Moffat watching on as well. And, well, Lewis Kent's season just isn't getting going, really, is it? I thought maybe he had the potential in race 1 to get himself a decent finish, made that great start, of course, but then had the off, didn't finish race 1, and mechanical arms appear to have sidelined him in race 2. So there is David, his grandfather, on the pit wall, watching on as the leaders come through. Now, let's see the lap. Now Josh is following Dan Lloyd. Actually, the lap times are fairly similar, within a tenth or so of each other, so it might not be over yet, and if Josh can stay with Dan and maybe force Dan to use his tyres a bit harder than he'd like to, then you never know what might happen. Of course, we never got to see this battle between the two of them in race 1 because Josh had to start from the back of the grid the engine change yesterday. So, but we always did wonder whether Josh, if he could get to the front and actually go toe-to-toe with Dan, whether maybe he might have the potential to challenge him. He's not quite as quick as Dan, but let's see if he can stick with him. Jess Beckman is still third, by the way. Sean Walkinshaw fourth, having finished 5th in race 1, so he's on for a decent day's work. And Andreas Beckman in 5th position, back across the start-finish line, in towards the hairpin to begin the 14th lap of the race already. We got 31 laps in race 1, but of course that was safety car affected, so if we have a green race this time with no safety cars, then we may get more laps in. Lewis Kent's back on track, albeit, well, of course, trying to stay out of everyone's way, and because he's now laps down, several laps down is Lewis, a couple of laps down anyway. But of course, if you finish the race, you can still score points, so score points right the way down through the field in TCR UK, so there's no reason why you can't still pick up a decent points haul, although because of the various mechanical woes and general issues that he's had at the start of the season, his championship already not really off to the best of starts. There is Darryl Wilson, former VW Cup race winner in the Vauxhall Astra, the first ever Vauxhall badged TCR car, that was of course over in Europe, the Astra run the Opel branding. From the field, let's have a look at the lap times. Went out by another 2/10 that time, but Josh had a particularly brilliant lap, so I wonder whether maybe he made a mistake somewhere. Generally speaking though, Danny's not just escaping up the road, and it'll be interesting to see how Josh races with us again later on in the season, whether maybe he can improve on Dan's level. Back in the pit lane though, I believe we can catch up with Bryn again.
Yeah, thanks very much, Andy. As you can see, we're looking at a tyre. This is the tyre of Lewis Kent. Now, he came in just a few moments ago, had to change his tyre. He's ripped through the entire thing, as you can see there. He had that bit of a late break into turn 1. Not sure if that's the reason for the break or the result of that late break, but that is the extent of the damage, and that is why Lewis came in. But he's back out on track now, and his lap time seems to have improved.
Right, okay, thanks for that, Bryn. Yes, that tyre is not in the best of health, is it? And is not going to be conducive to good lap time. So right decision there. But that's what we call flat spotting a tyre. If you lock up the brakes really badly, you literally can wear the tyre down to the floor. That's what those appears to have done. So Derek Palmer and Darryl Wilson here, they're fighting over 7th position. And Derek Palmer, I documented earlier on the real upturn in pace that he's had this weekend. Well, not pace, he was always quick. When the car was working at Silverstone, he was as quick as the front runners. It just wasn't working, and then he had issues here as well over on in testing on Friday and on Saturday's morning as well with brakes. Just didn't feel like he had the brakes underneath him that he needed. But clearly in this race, that is a little different. The car seems to be working fairly well, and he is doing his best now to hold off Darryl Wilson. If you fall off in front of him, which could still happen with part of the race still to go, you could pick up more places. That's not the way to do it, though. Outbreaks himself slightly into the hairpin, so Wilson is now alongside him. Don't touch here. This is one of the fastest parts of the circuit. There's not that much runoff area. But Darryl Wilson with the inside line into Clark's here. I don't think Derek was going to fight that too hard. Remember, Darryl Wilson had an off here, actually, in the first race. Mind you, who didn't have an off at some point in the first race? I think Dan Lloyd was about the only driver in race 1 who didn't go sightseeing around Knockhill. On black stuff, as he tends to do, as well as the championship leader. Wilson gains another position then, that puts him into 7th, but he's about 2 seconds behind Ollie Taylor. Ollie Taylor, in turn, is catching Andreas Beckman, so that's another little battle to keep an eye out for 5th place, the number 19 VW of Andreas, not really showing the pace in race for him that he showed throughout practice and qualifying, which is interesting. There they are, you can see Ollie Taylor is almost with him. Well, Ollie Taylor's car is not in showroom condition anymore, either after a bit of a love tap early on, but he is still going fairly quickly. And not that far up the road are Jessica Beckman and Sean Walkinshaw, and Ollie will be after another podium, of course, if he can. Ollie's had a remarkably consistent season, actually. He's not been off the podium all year. 2 third places at Silverstone, a 2nd place this morning, but at the moment, running down in 6th. He's got work to do, with now just over 14 minutes left. Sean Walkinshaw is also right with Jessica Beckman now as well, so quite a lot of these battles are developing throughout the middle part of the race. And for the last 10 minutes or so, or near enough the whole second half of the race, we're going to see how these battles work out. You can see Walkinshaw there looking to the inside into the hairpin just to try and distract Jessica, and it might have worked. Beckman runs a bit wide there. Walkinshaw up alongside and has much more momentum out of the corner, so this is for 3rd position, and Sean Walkinshaw in the car that was raced by Howard Fuller at Silverstone is trying to attack, but there's a bit of contact there down into Clark corner, and that was not a nice place to be trading paint. I said a lap or so ago that you don't want to be touching at that part of the track. Jessica Beckman will not roll over and let Sean Walkinshaw through. Sean does look quicker, but where's he going to make the move? Because that was a mistake by Jessica that opened the door that time. You'd think that she probably won't make that mistake again. Notice she's lost her rear bumper again. That's got to be about the 3rd rear bumper that the Beckmans have been through this weekend. And of course, one of the problems, as we see a replay there, the contact. And Sean did a really nice job to gather that all together. But one of the problems with the rainfall that we have had recently. Oh, come on to that in a moment though, because Jessica's done it again, and in fact this time she's let the door wide open, and that is how Dan Lloyd got past her earlier on as well. So she's clearly struggling under braking there, and just behind, the other Civic has gone past the other Golf. Ollie Taylor has worked his way through into 5th, so Walkinshaw goes 3rd, Taylor goes 5th. It's Civics in the ascendancy at the moment. Walkinshaw is now about 6 seconds behind the top 2, so it's unlikely that he's going to catch Josh Price, but still quite a long way to go. And of course, we now start getting into the territory of tyre wear becoming a factor. The drivers who have managed the tyre wear better through the first part of the race, they can start now to look pretty through the second half of the race, whereas those who've been going hell for leather and maybe worn the tyres out of it too much, they might start to struggle. Is that what's happened to Jessica Beckman, I wonder? Let's find out. She's down into the hairpin now. She's got Ollie Taylor starting to reel her in. And of course, her brother Andreas behind, but she hasn't beaten Andreas yet out on track. Every race so far this year, Andreas has finished ahead of her. He had a 4th and a 2nd last time out at Silverstone, and of course another 4th this morning in race 1. So it would be in their little family rivalry, friendly rivalry it is, but it's a rivalry nonetheless, and she would love to get one over on Andreas if she could. First of all, she has to deal with a man who's 2nd place in points coming into this race. Ollie Taylor extended his margin for 2nd in the championship over Andreas Beckman by beating him in race 1. He's ahead of him at the moment in race 2, and looks like he's about to start challenging for 4th place here. Over the hill, he's close enough to have a go this time into the hairpin. Sells the dummy, makes Jessica think he's not going to go for it, and then launches up the inside. Oh, Jessica turns in though. Oh no, there's contact and they're both off. Both out wide. Is there damage done to Taylor's car? I think there is. Ollie Taylor, this is big drama as far as one of our championship contenders are concerned, and that was very unfortunate indeed. It was such a late lunge. It was hard to see from that angle whether Jessica closed the door or whether Ollie ran a bit wide. I'm sure they'll both have differing versions of that story to tell us later, but that is a real shame that battle had to end that way. And of course, just as I was saying that Jessica was on to, yes, Ollie's not best pleased. Just as I was saying that Jessica was on to beat her brother, it looks now as though that might not happen. Ollie Taylor, though, is not going to be meeting anyone in this race. He is out of the race, and that could, he says hesitantly, require a safety car, which would change the whole dynamic of the race. And as I say that, the safety car is scrambled. So there we go. Safety car comes out. Ollie Taylor trudges away. Yes, and the marshal's signalling there that they need to tow that car out of the gravel. I don't know whether there was any damage done. It may be that the initial contact broke the steering, and that's why Ollie couldn't avoid running out into the gravel. And then when he was in the gravel, he was beached anyway. But I think it's safe to say that Ollie Taylor is not the happiest driver at Knockhill at the moment. His race is over, and if Andreas Beckman gets to the end and scores some decent points, he will lose second place in the championship as well. Which is ironic, since it was Jess Beckman that he just tangled with. Here's a replay. You can see it was such a late lunge, but you could see it coming. He was selling at the dummy. Now, it is hard to tell from that angle whether Jess turned in, Ollie ran wide, or whether maybe it was a mix of the two. But the end result, there's no doubt about that. Ollie Taylor is beaching the gravel trap and out of the race. And, well, Dan Lloyd's very healthy lead that he'd built up over Josh Price now disappears. But most interestingly for me, the gap between Price and Walkinshaw disappears. And Sean Walkinshaw in third position. His last few laps have been on a par, if not quicker, than Josh Price. So Sean Walkinshaw will now start thinking, hang on a minute, I know I'd be happy with a podium, but I could get myself one step higher. I just have to pass a former Renault Clio Cup race winner, but you know, I'm sure Sean, with all his years of experience racing on the continent in sports cars and whatnot, he will have a few ideas as to what he can try here. Of course, it also means, though, that Andreas Beckman now closes in, and Andreas is running in his favoured fourth position, because I said that Andreas has finished fourth twice already this year, and he's running fourth again now. There is Jessica. The right-hand side of the car looks okay, the back doesn't, and I'm imagining now the left-hand side of the car doesn't look too snazzy either, as a result of that contact that she had with Ollie Taylor just now. Darryl Wilson, of course, is now back into the top 5. He's 5th place in the green Astra. Then Jessica, then Derek Palmer, and we've lost, unfortunately, Ollie Taylor from this race. Finley Crocker, Aidan Moffat didn't start, and Lewis Kent is still running, one lap down, and of course, as he crosses the timing beam this time around, he will be registered in 8th place, because he's now completed more laps than this man, Ollie Taylor. So this is what I said about Lewis. If they just get him back out there, he can still score some decent points. And okay, it's not going to be the podium or the race win that he would have been hoping for, but all of these points that you can score at this early stage of the season could come back at the end of the year to be particularly significant. So, West Coast Racing lead the way, BMR Autogram Academy in second place, Sean Walkinshaw Racing car in third, and then the second of the West Coast Golfs in fourth position. There's Ollie's car. It's hard to tell from that side whether there is any suspension or steering damage, because if there is, it will be on the right-hand side of the car, of course, but it matters little really. This race is done regardless. Hopefully, we probably won't be able to go racing this time, I don't think. The lights are still on the safety car, so it will be one more lap behind the safety car. That's good news, really, in a way, for Dan, because Dan Lloyd, the more laps that we spend behind the safety car, the less defending he'll have to do from Josh Price and Sean Walkinshaw, and maybe his teammate Andreas Beckman behind. Quite a few battered cars. Silverstone was a very different weekend to the one that we've had here at Knockhill, but I always suspected that might be the case, because it's so tight and it's so technical and it's so narrow, and it is hard to pass. And these are touring car drivers after all, so there's only so long that they'll wait patiently behind another driver. If they feel they can go through, they're going to go for it, and sometimes that can cause issues. But Dan Lloyd has thus far kept that car in pristine condition ever since the very start of the season, really. So whilst we're behind the safety car, it's another chance of checking with Bryn down in pit lane, who I believe is with Aidan Moffat.
Well, I'm here with Aidan Moffat, obviously not out on track, didn't manage to make it. Must be pretty disappointed about that.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. I think race 1 was frustrating in general. First of all that nonsense on the start was a bit of a shambles, which was frustrating. put me on the wet line. Kind of, and we had the pace. We took the quickest time of the race, but again, the car's so early in development, 2 parts failed. It was just the engine mounts were too weak. Both sheared, engine moved and ripped the drive shaft out. The second one, I tried to drive out the pits and I've never even made it to the racetrack the second time. I'm not sure what the issue is yet, but it's something completely different again. But yeah, I mean, that is what it is. There's nothing I can really do about it. You just got to get on with it, I guess.
If we look at Knockhill in the sunshine, all that aside, and this reverse route, this anti-clockwise round, have you enjoyed coming here and going anti-clockwise?
To drive was good. It was hard to... I never got a real taste for the racing. Obviously, race 1, when I was involved in it, the track still wasn't fully dry, so it doesn't matter where you are, you can't really overtake because you can't go offline on slicks. So I never got a true feel for overtaking. But I mean, Dan seems to have done well overtaking in this race, although the car does look extremely quick, but is what it is, never mind. So yeah, I thought it would have been nice to see what the racing's like, but as a circuit to drive in the TCR car was amazing fun, so I enjoyed that.
Fantastic. Aidan, thank you very much.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bryn. And understandably frustrated Aidan Moffat there down in the pit lane. His championship hopes have taken a big hit this weekend at Knockhill. I'm going to make an educated guess and say that there is some suspension damage to Ollie Taylor's car because they are choosing to hoist it up onto the flat lift truck rather than tow it away, and that's usually a sign that one or more of the wheels either won't move or is not pointing in the right direction. So I think it's more than likely that that front right corner sustained a fair bit of damage with what looked like fairly innocuous contact, but bear in mind he'd had a few knocks already in the race, hadn't he? He had that contact on the opening lap, for example, with, if memory serves, Finley Crocker, and he then was starting to finally make his move towards the front, was Ollie Taylor. Also frustratingly, there were only 3 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock, so we're getting down to the point where I don't think the race will finish behind the safety car. I think we will get racing again, but it might be only for a couple of laps. And so if you think they've been desperate to make moves up until now, well, all of a sudden we've taken the best part of a third of the race away from them. And the drivers are going to be even more keen to try and make those last couple of positions. Can Andreas Beckman get onto the podium, or can Sean Walkinshaw maybe get past Josh Price? Can Josh Price do anything about Dan Lloyd? I mean, his pace has been fairly impressive. He's not quite as quick as Dan, but off a safety car restart, the tyre temperatures go down. You never know, you might be able to force some sort of a mistake out of the West Coast Racing driver. And then can Jessica Beckman get back into the top 5, I wonder. Remember, she's dropped down to 6th now behind Daryl Wilson. Daryl, I think I'm right in saying, will be on for his best finish so far. Yeah, has a previous best of 7th last time out at Silverstone. So even if he did lose another place to Jessica Beckman, he'd still be on for his best finish of the year. Well, hopefully we're not too far away from a restart. But before we do get racing, Bryn is down in the pit lane again, and this time I believe he's with David Clean.
Well, David, it's not gone to plan for poor Lewis out there, has it?
Well, no, it hasn't gone to plan, but we're learning. We're learning. We're on a steep learning curve. You do look at the experience of some of those drivers he's up against. It's the youngest one out there. And I think he'll come on. I mean, it's got to improve.
Well, he started 3rd. He was looking pretty quick there. He had a bit of an off. He went a bit heavy into that first turn.
Well, he had a problem with one of the tyres. One of the tyres is delaminated on the right-hand side, the right front, so he got so much push on. That's why he was getting slower and slower and slower. By the time we changed the tyre and got him back out there, then obviously that's job done, finished.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a case of him now getting as much information and much time behind that wheel as possible.
We want as much track time as possible. I mean, we're limited with what we can do as far as testing is concerned, so this will effectively be our test day. But we're going. We're there. We're in 8th place. We're in for a few points.
8th place in a safety car that should be going in quite soon.
Yeah. Well, we've led a TCR race at the second meeting for 3 or 4 laps, so I think we should be pleased with that.
Not a bad start.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. I think the whole of the Essex and Kent Motorsport squad should be really proud of themselves. They are running the Hyundai i30N TCR car that's enjoying all the success around the rest of the world in TCR racing, but being run by much bigger teams. Of course, one of the joys of TCR is that you can be a small lad and dad team, which essentially is what the Essex and Kent Motorsport squad is, and you can go up against the West Coast Racings and the Tyros, you know, the really well-established big teams, and you can just as quick as them. Right, we are about ready to go racing, and it will be a one-lap dash for the cash because there are 35 seconds left on the clock. They therefore will have time just about to finish this lap, but only one more after that, and Dan Lloyd is gone. Look at that, Dan has accelerated away already, leaving Josh Price and everyone else behind. Josh has got a bit of a gap over Walkinshaw in third, so it's really now going to be about the fight for the bottom step of the podium. Can Sean Walkinshaw hold on, or will Andreas Beckman be able to go through? The green flag wave for the last lap board is out as well, and looking back for third place. Walkinshaw has to defend. Beckman goes to the outside line. Darryl Wilson's in there as well, looking for a podium. This could get messy. Beckman outbreaks himself, and Wilson seizes the opportunity. Brilliant stuff from Darryl Wilson into fourth position, already on for his best ever finish, and now he's closing on Sean Walkinshaw as well, who tries to close the door. These two have already come together briefly once in this race, and now they're fighting for the bottom step of the podium. Up over the curb they go. Wilson a bit wide there into the left-hander. This is not the way I expected this one-lap restart to pan out whatsoever. In towards the chicane they go. Can Wilson get third? There's only really one more chance to pass, and that's up here into the next left-hander. Andreas Beckman almost takes off behind them, but I don't think the places are going to change hands. Dan Lloyd comes out of the final corner. He is about to see the checkered flag, and it's a very familiar sight indeed. 4 wins from 4 for West Coast Racing, and Dan Lloyd extends his championship lead. Josh Price is second, Sean Walkinshaw third, Darryl Wilson in fourth as well, and I don't know which of those two stories is the most impressive. Andreas Beckman is fifth, Jessica Beckman will come home sixth, Derek Palmer seventh, and Lewis Kent, as his grandfather David Clear was saying before, he may be a couple of laps down, he may only be in 8th place, but it's still worth some points, and with the dramas that others have had this weekend, then you never know, he could yet find himself in a position to finish fairly strongly in the championship with Donington Park at the end of the year. Well, one man who has seen no trouble this weekend is Dan Lloyd. We had the brief moment of doubt before race 1 where it looked like he might be starting at the back of the grid, but from the moment that he was put back onto pole position, it was, well, I can't say plain sailing, but it's job done for Dan Lloyd. He's achieved exactly what he wanted to. So race victory goes the way of Dan Lloyd. Second place goes to Josh Price, but he actually set the fastest lap earlier on. Third is Sean Walkinshaw, a terrific debut podium, and Darryl Wilson in fourth with his best ever finish. Andreas Beckman is fifth in the next of the West Coast cars. He'll be disappointed to have lost that place at the end. And Jessica coming home in sixth. Derek Palmer seventh, but at least gets to the end of both races. Plenty of track time for his Alfa Romeo Giulietta. And Lewis Kent, the last of the finishers, in eighth. We lost Ollie Taylor, we lost Finley Crocker, and Aidan Moffat, sadly, never made the start. Dan Lloyd did make the start, though, and Dan has put on a real clinic this weekend in both races. And we now move on to the next round at Brands Hatch in a few weeks' time. He'll hopefully be back with us again. It's always a bit of a doubt with Dan. They are doing this on a round-by-round basis, but he is making himself more and more marketable and more appealing for sponsors by the fact that he keeps winning. Everyone else will be frustrated about it, but Dan is doing the job, you know. I mean, I know Aidan was saying before the VW looks quick. Well, yes, it is, but Dan is a very good driver as well, and of course West Coast Racing, a very good team, a fully professional team. They have experience racing on the international stage in TCR racing, as well as other forms of touring cars, and it's no surprise really that with that combination they are having such a success rate. But Dan Lloyd climbs out of the car, and it's 4 wins from 4, maximum points haul from both of the first 2 rounds of the championship. It doesn't get much better than that. Josh Price coming home second though, and that is phenomenal as well for his first ever TCR races, and he finds his way onto the podium in both, while Sean Walkinshaw, well, he started from pole. I'm not sure even he expected that he'd still be in a podium position come the end of the race, but there he is. Third place finish for him. Well, Dan Lloyd is out of the car and ready to chat with Bryn.
Well, Dan, that was slightly trickier than the first race and anything we had from you in Silverstone.
Yeah, it was good fun. Plan to take that race quite safe, but you got to capitalise on stuff when it's there, and that's what I did. I had a good start and then just settled down and yeah, got going. So yeah, awesome.
Had to pick them off one by one to get through it, and then you started to get a little bit pushed by Josh Price to our left here.
Yeah, I mean, I got past Josh and my pace was great, and then to be honest, the tyres were dropping off quite a bit. So I was a bit gutted to see the safety car again, but just I had in my mind what I was going to do at the restart and really took off again. So yeah, big thanks to the West Coast Racing boys this weekend because done an amazing job, put in so much hard work. So
it was a one-lap shootout really at the end there. Did you feel the pressure going into that restart?
Yeah, because if you make one small mistake coming over the hill, you're sitting ducked into the first corner, so it had to be absolutely perfect. So I planned to go really early in the middle of the chicane in first gear, get the pull up the hill, and yeah, it worked perfect. So
there you go, another race win. Well done, Dan Lloyd.
Thank you. Cheers.
Fantastic. Let's run around to Josh. Now, we saw Josh earlier on. He managed to bag himself a third-place trophy. He's sitting very happily now in front of the number 2 board. Well done, Josh. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was a good race. I got a good start compared to the ones in front of me. I saw Dan come in and he was just chomping away so quick. We didn't really have the pace to keep with him. He just looked really comfortable and out there on his own.
When you were looking around, there's some pretty quick guys. Sean Walkinshaw, he may not have spent many hours in a front-wheel drive touring car, but he's looking quick out there and looking back behind him, and Darryl was going like the clappers as well.
Yeah, I saw him on the safety car. I didn't think I'd have a shot at going for the win for Dan. So I based the safety car where we started on that to try and get a gap off the line to make sure that we can get round the first corner. But yeah, all in all, it's great reward for the team. Putting that engine in last minute and for BMR and Autoglim.
It was pretty challenging for your team, as you say, to get that car out there. Well done to you. So your impressions of your first day of racing in TCR UK?
Yeah, it's good. It's got everything you want. You've got clean racing. The cars are quite close to be able to race fairly and competitively. So it is a good series, and I'm sure I'll be coming back.
Nice one. Well done, Josh. Second place there for Josh Price. A really strong performance from Josh this weekend. We weren't quite sure what to expect from him when you consider that, you know, he has raced touring car for a long time, but he'd never set foot in one of these TCR cars, or hadn't done for many hours of his life. And then we come over here to Sean Walkinshaw on the same story. This is a guy who we're used to seeing GTs, rear wheel drive, much more power, but here you are in a front wheel drive car, now third place. Well done.
Yeah, cheers. It was definitely an interesting race. Obviously after turn 1 I thought it could be a bit over, but you know, obviously lost quite a few places there, but slowly got into rhythm, built my confidence up, and slowly picked off some of the other quick cars in front. And yeah, obviously we've got a gap to 4th place, and the guys in front kind of cleared off, so I was just in a nice rhythm by myself for a little bit. So the safety car came out a bit at the wrong time, but yeah, still really happy with P3. Yeah,
safety car came out. We had to watch the safety car for a while, and then we had that one lap of mayhem where Darryl Wilson, who's sitting right to our side here, he was chasing you down.
Yeah, obviously I think at the beginning it was one of the VWs, and I was just you know, down the straights were a bit slow this weekend, so I was defending straight on, so taking the inside line, but it was okay. And then yeah, I was a little bit worried about him, but I managed to get a few good corners and put a little bit of gap in the last sector, which was nice.
And of course, you carrying on for your team where Howard Fuller was at Silverstone, so that car is pretty reliable and pretty quick.
Yeah, it's very quick. Obviously, you know, to be on the podium after only the second round of us going in touring cars is fantastic. So hopefully Howard will be back in the car the third round and can continue our momentum and get a few high places.
Nice one. Go and get your trophy. Well done there, Sean.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Well, what a phenomenal race that was. We thought it was going to be exciting, and it really was. Back now then to Andy in commentary while the drivers go to the podium.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Yep, it's been a dramatic weekend in the TCR UK fold here at Knockhill. A double race victory, though, for Dan Lloyd. And here are the championship standings. Dan Lloyd leads on 182 points now, with Andreas Beckmann, as I suspected, up into second place now, but only just, not that far ahead of Ollie Taylor in third. 4th place then for Jessica Beckmann, a brilliant weekend that she's had. A few knocks and bruises, but she's up there in 4th. And Josh Price, only 2 races under his belt, and he's up there in the top 5. Darryl Wilson is closing in on the top 5 as well. And one thing is for sure, even if Dan Lloyd is showing the sort of dominance and continuing to show the sort of dominance that he showed early on in the season, the fighting for positions further back is going to be very intense indeed, as was this race. It started with a bang for Sean Walkinshaw and Lewis Kent as they came together at the first corner. There was drama for Finley Crocker as well. Contact with Ollie Taylor put him off into the gravel and into retirement. Lewis Kent escaped as the leader initially, ahead of a terrific scrap between Walkinshaw and Josh Price, who was carving his way through the field and starting to look good for a potential win. He passed Walkinshaw, and then he forced a mistake out of a struggling Lewis Kent, who, unbeknownst to us, had tyre issues from an early stage. Dan Lloyd followed him through fairly swiftly into second position. Lewis ran third for a while before having to make a pit stop to change tyres. Dan Lloyd caught Josh Price and did not take long to find a way through, taking over the race lead and proceeding to pull off into the distance. Behind it was all action though. Jessica Beckman, determined to try and finish on the podium, made a mistake, allowed Sean Walkinshaw through, and then tangled with Ollie Taylor, putting Taylor into the gravel, out of the race and into a pretty foul mood. That brought out the safety car, and Dan Lloyd was faced with a one-lap shootout. He was able to hang on to the race victory. Josh Price came through in second, but it was all changed behind as Andreas Beckman made a mistake and allowed Sean Walkinshaw through. It's been a fantastic pair of races. We can't wait for Brands Hatch next time out. Afternoon everybody, we are away and racing with our third race of the weekend for the Avon Tyres Formula Ford 1600 National Championship, and Luke Cooper it is who started on pole position. He converts that into the lead down towards the hairpin for the first time. Michael Eastwell in second position. Third place looks like it is Jamie Thorburn. We were treated to an epic encounter earlier on this morning, a race that was won by Niall Murray, having dropped all the way down to 10th place after running out wide at the first corner on lap 1. Oh, and that is a shame, because our race 1 winner, Matt Brown-Garrido, who was in the lead battle in race 2 before responding to the gravel track, well, he hasn't even made it through the first lap in this third and final race of the weekend. The rest of the field making their way downhill though, and Luke Cooper, winner last time out of Silverstone, leads the way, but here comes Niall Murray up the inside of Neil McLennan. He's into 4th position. That was a lovely little move made there. Niall Murray starting this race in 6th position, and that is as the result, I think, of a grid reversal from race 2, but immediately the safety car is called for, I'm afraid, and that will, we can only assume, be because of this car. Matt Brown-Garrido's car stopped. Oh no, Niall Murray! Niall Murray is off as the safety car was scrambled, and it's caused all sorts of confusion, and Niall Murray is in the tyre wall and out of the race. What on earth happened there? Well, what I think has happened is that the safety car usually at Knockhill is based on that access road that you can see to the right of shot, and so it comes into the pit lane as the race begins, and then when everyone's left the grid and started, it comes onto the track and pulls down into its access road. But of course, because the safety car's been scrambled at the end of lap 1, it's stayed in the pit lane and it's been scrambled onto the track at the very last second, and everyone else has slammed on the brakes. And Niall Murray, unfortunately, with contact, we can only assume, that sent him straight into the wall. Marshall just talking away to Niall, making sure he's absolutely okay. We took his helmet off on his own. But I think he might have had a fair whack there, not necessarily into the wall, but possibly from another car. We'll see whether we can get a replay of that. Here we go. Oh, well, yes, hard to see if there was contact with Neil McLennan there. I think there was certainly contact with Jamie Thorburn, but by that point Murray was already out of control. But that was just because the safety car was scrambled at the very last second, and everyone, of course, comes over the hill flat out, slams on the brakes, and some reacted quicker than others. The red flag, I can tell you, has been flown, so the race is being neutralised, just to help speed up the recovery process, of course, making sure first and foremost that Niall is okay, and secondly that they can get the cars out of the way and get the race started as quickly as possible. Also, if it's going to be a lengthy clear-up operation, then rather than eat into the 15-minute race time, they're going to instead take the time to stop the race, and because we then completed 1 lap, it will be a full race restart. It gives me time now, I suppose, to give you the story of the weekend so far, which I didn't get a chance to before the race started. Yesterday we had 1 race in the afternoon, won by Matt Brown-Garrido from Niall Murray in 2nd place, and Neil McLennan 3rd. Well, Murray and McLennan were both on the podium again in race 2 this morning. Murray won, McLennan 2nd, and Thorburn in 3rd. Jamie Thorburn, that is, in 3rd position. Well, Niall Murray became the first double race winner with that victory, but he's not going to win this race, nor is Matt Round-Garrido. So whatever happens, we're going to have 3 different race winners from the 3 races here at Knockhill, and it's potential that we could get an all-new winner when we get the race back underway. Luke Cooper, though, starting there on the pole position, and he is a race winner already this year. Won a race at Silverstone, won the second race at Silverstone in sensational fashion. One of the best Formula 4 1600 races in memory, and he therefore arrived here at Knockhill second in the points behind Niall Murray, who led. Niall, of course, had a second and a first in the first 2 races, extending his championship lead, but he's now out of the race, and that will change things around. Of course, drop scores come into the equation as the season goes on. That's always the case, and so it's not the end of the world, perhaps, if you have a bad result early on in the year, but you don't want it. You want to be out there racing, you want to be out there scoring good points, and sadly for Niall Murray and Matt Round-Garrido, they will not be taking any further part in this one. So the grid, as I said, based upon a partially reversed grid, a partially reversed result from race 2 earlier on. So Luke Cooper, who finished 6th, number 6 was drawn out of the hat, and so Luke was drawn to start on pole position. Michael Eastwell was alongside him and will be back alongside him, because they will regrid everybody back in correct order, because we hadn't completed 3 racing laps basically. So they will be the 2 cars that will line up on the front row of the grid together, with Nico Gruber and Jamie Thorburn row 2. Neil McLennan will now be on his own, of course, on row 3, because Niall Murray won't be there to take the start. And then Rory Smith, Josh Smith, Carter Williams and Sebastian Melrose will round out the top 10. So Luke Cooper starting from the pole position then in his Swift SC16, and he is champion in Formula 4 1600 racing in the recent years, many a time a race victor, and one of, you'd have to say, about a dozen or so drivers in this incredibly high quality field who are capable of winning races and fighting for a championship. Duncan Vincent there, the circuit commentator, having a little chat with Luke on the grid, but he's one of those drivers who is always there or thereabouts, wins when he can, but when he can't win, he finishes second. If he can't finish second, he finishes third. You always feel that Luke gets the most possible out of a race weekend, and we've seen that to an extent this weekend. He's not had the pace that he'd like. He was only 9th in race 1 and 6th in race 2, but he finished the races rather than trying to overdrive and get results that maybe just aren't ever going to happen. He has simply bagged points and been able to finish all the races. Now that's Matt Round-Garrido, who initially was the reason for bringing out a safety car, which then caused the accident that's brought out the red flag. And rather frustratingly for everyone else, none more than Niall Murray, Matt Round-Garrido's car is now working again. So presumably it was a mechanical issue that put him to the side of the road. This will be interesting though, because is he going to be allowed to take up a grid position and take the restart? Because he wasn't the cause of the red flag, but he wasn't running at the time of the red flag either. So that's going to be that's going to be a discussion that takes place outside of the track, I think. But Matt is signalling to his team that they should come down and help him out, running with Team Dolan, of course, same team that run Niall Murray. And Niall said in his interview post-race, after race 2, that it's the best Formula 4 1600 team out there. They certainly know what they're doing, but they've not had the best of times in this 3rd race of the weekend. So there is the front of the grid lining up. The marshals are doing a good job, as always they do, just to arrange everything, get everyone into their correct positions. And Luke Cooper will have to do this all over again now. Made a good start from pole in the initial start of the race. Will he be able to do the same thing again? Nico Gruber and Jamie Thorburn will line up on that second row of the grid. Jamie Thorburn, who was 4th in the points last year, took 1 race victory, and started racing Formula Ford back in 2015. Of course, he comes from the famous Thorburn family, and family with some real racing pedigree. No doubt really that, no surprise really that Jamie has continued to be a front runner in the series. That's Hugo Bentley-Ellis, who was a retirement in race 1. Looks like he is running into some sort of strife here early on in race 2 as well. I think he did take the start, but made his way into the pit lane pretty much as soon as the race did start. Maybe did one lap, and they've got the engine cover off. They're looking around at the tail end of the car, and of course the red flag, I guess, gives them a bit more time to try and get the car fixed, although there is no sign of Hugo. He's not there ready and waiting to jump into the car, so it doesn't look as though they expect this to be a quick fix. And if I was mechanically minded in the slightest, I'd be able to tell you what they're doing, but they are, it's always the fiddly little things that break, isn't it? And they'll be looking around, trying to use this extra time to find out what the issue is. So the reminder here of how the cars will be lining up for this restarted race. Luke Cooper and Michael Eastwell on row 1, Nico Gruber and Jamie Thorburn on row 2, Liam McLennan, as I said, on his own now on row 3 because there will be no Niall Murray. Rory Smith and Josh Smith, the two Smiths together on row 4, ahead of Carter Williams and Seb Melrose. So we're getting some news now that apparently this race is going to be postponed, so it is not going to take place now as we expected, and they're going to try and fit it in a little bit later in the day. Apparently, we know not the reason why, but either way, it means that before the race even really gets underway, it's over, but it may not be over. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you coverage of the 6th round of the Avon Tyres Formula Ford National Championship later on today. We'll find out more information as and when we get it, but for now, the next race will be the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup in about 20 minutes time. About 3:35 we'll have the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup out into the circuit. More updates as and when we get them. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our final instalment of Mazda Madness. The BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup's third race of the weekend is about to get underway. The cars are out on their green flag laps. I'll quickly put you up to date with what's gone on so far this weekend. Luke Herbert has won both of the first two races of the weekend at Knockhill, but with a partially reversed grid for this third and final encounter. He finds himself starting back in the pack. I think starting 8th on the grid, which means that Jack Sycamore has inherited the pole position for this one. I think Jonathan Greensmith will be alongside him on the front row of the grid. You can see that we're being treated to some glorious sunshine now here this afternoon at Knockhill. After the torrential downpour we had overnight and into the morning, the track dried out remarkably quickly, and we've been treated to some high-speed thrills and spills all day long. And reverse grid racing is always exciting. Mazda MX-5 racing is always exciting. Put the two together and you're guaranteed action. So there we see the orange car of Sycamore on the pole position, Johnny Greensmith alongside him, the white car with blue stripes. Row 2 is Simon Baldwin and Steve Roberts. Row 3 for Aidan Hills and James Blake Baldwin and Jack Harding and Luke Herbert. Top 2 from race number 2. They start down on the 4th row. Nick Dunn and Gary Townsend round out the top 10 ahead of Sam Tatler and Alex King, Will Stevenson and James Kell. Alec Livesley, Lewis Carter, Darren Stapleton, Nick Rutter, Mark Swarbrick and George Grant round out the top 20. So the grid is lining up. We are getting ready for 20 minutes of Mazda MX-5 Super Cup action. Luke Herbert has had 2 near enough lights to flag victory so far this weekend, but he's not going to have it that easy this time, coming through from 8th on the grid. There at the back are 2 cars to watch for: the white and orange car 19 of Carl Garnett, and the number 11 machine, the Zebra machine of Colin Bysouth. They came together coming out of Clark's in the second race, and Garnett was spat off into the wall. Then half a lap later, Bysouth locked up at the hairpin and got beached in the gravel trap, and the two of them together brought out the safety car. They'll both be starting from the back of the grid, presumably having had some sort of discussion post-race. They should be more or less in line. Yes, they are, because the red lights come on, and round number 6 of the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup is underway. Lights out, and off towards the hairpin we go. Who makes the start at the front? It's Greensmith. Johnny Greensmith looking for his first win of the season, gets the lead on the run down towards the hairpin for the first time. They're 4 abreast behind. This is never going to work. Steve Roberts comes sailing around the outside of the white number 56 car. He's going to get third, I think. He nearly got second, and there's Carl Garnett. Said he'd be one to watch for. He was a long way wide there. Can we do the first corner? Aidan Hills with 2 wheels on the grass. Luke Herbert appears to have lost ground. He certainly hasn't gained any ground. He's leading the 1 car, but it is going to be Greensmith that leads the way. Second place then for Sycamore. Third place for Steve Roberts. 4th for Aidan Hills. 5th looks like it's Simon Baldwin. 6th is Tatler. 7th is James Blake Baldwin. And so 8th place, yes, not having made any ground at all, is Luke Herbert. But he's already had these 2 wins this weekend. So I guess for Luke, he just wants to try and keep his powder dry here and maybe work with Blake Baldwin and Jack Harding behind him to try and work their way up the order. There's the number 62 car of Will Stevenson behind, but the leaders pop their way over the hill at Dufferson, back onto the pit straight again, and it is going to be Johnny Greensmith who leads the opening lap of the race. Oh no, that's sideways. That is what we call a tank sniper, ladies and gentlemen, and that was guard number 35, Alex King, who did well to save it. Steve Roberts around the outside here for second place. He can get shown the edge of the road. Yep, you can see that coming a mile off. Off into the dirt he goes, and Aidan Hills is going to try and take advantage, and does take advantage, takes third place away, and now he's going for second place. Look at that, 2 wheels on the grass the whole way down the straight towards the right-hander at Hislops and the left-hander at Clark's. He backed out of it sensibly, but Jack Sycamore is going to have to really make that Mazda MX-5 as wide as possible to try and keep hold of that position. They take off over the chicane, and Aidan Hills can see the leader getting away. He goes up the inside. Does he into Scotsman? No, not quite. And so he stays in that third position. But they won't want to let Johnny Greensmith get too far away, because Johnny, although he's never won this championship, he is a former Mazda MX-5 champion in another series and Porsche champion as well. So he knows how to win races, he knows how to win championships. And Aidan Hills has shown he knows how to overtake at Knockhill, because he's pulled off some splendid moves all weekend, and that was another good one. Just about found a gap coming out of the final corner, and he does now move through into second. Further back, these are some of the heavy hitters in the championship. Number 4, Blake Baldwin. Number 1, Luke Herbert. And then Jack Harding in there as well, of course. He is most definitely going to be challenging for the title this year in car number 43. And they are all still really trying to work their way up the top 10. Down into Clark's again. Top two getting away. Interesting to watch the timing screens now, though, to see whether or not the lead gap starts coming down now that Aidan Hills is back into clean air. He's really trying, though, you can see that. And this is the first time we've seen him out there in completely bone-dry, warm conditions. They are on the limit now, and they are a real spectacle when they're driving like this. Out of Scotsman's up through the right hander at Leslie's into Duffus Dip, it would be called the other way round, but of course it's very much a steep climb out of there this time around. Right, let's see what the gap is like at the front. It is just under half a second, and Aidan Hills in second place sets the fastest lap of the race as Steve Roberts goes right round the outside of Jack Sycamore for third and gets the car stopped somehow. So Sycamore starting to slip backwards here, but look at the lead gap. That has absolutely been annihilated by Aidan Hills. He is right there now with Johnny Greensmith, and we have a real race on our hands for the race lead. In towards the left-hander at Clark's they go, using all of the curb on the way in and on the way through and on the way out as well. Try not to run out wide over the dirt on the exit, because that will really lose traction and momentum going into the chicane. And fairly sedately this time over the chicane they go into the left-hander, and here comes the move up the inside. We haven't seen many successful moves into Scotsman's, and that's why, because it's such a tight corner. If you go for it on the inside line, it's really difficult to make it stick without making contact. But Aidan really wants to get on with this, because all the time he spends stuck behind the leader, Roberts is closing in, and it's about to become one of those Mazda trains that you get so often, where you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 cars nose to tail in a line, and if you try and make a move, you risk losing out to the car behind, which is what might happen here, because Hills went to the outside line, and Steve Roberts fills the gap on the inside, and he's going to try and move through into second place. There's a bit of paint traded on the exit of the corner, down the straight they go towards Hislops, and no, Aidan Hills it is who will hang on. But Johnny Greensmith will be loving seeing that in his mirrors, because now with the arrival of Steve Roberts and everybody else, it takes some of the pressure off him. It's 2, 4, 6, 8 cars in this lead train, and they are probably, you'd have to say, if you had to pick 8 drivers out who are likely to fight for the championship this year, this would be the majority of them, with the possible exception of Jack Sycamore. But that's no disrespect to Jack, it's just that he's really shown great pace in the early part of the year that we maybe didn't see coming, but maybe we should have done. And here he is up there in 4th position. Okay, slipping back a little bit in this race, but he's still in contention for some good points. Back up the pit straight we go again. Greensmith leads the way. Is there a gap up the inside for Aidan Hills? There might be, you know. He's not afraid to take to the grass, remember. And yes, he squeezes through on the inside line. Oh no, they make contact on the grass. Is Aidan Hills? Can they get the car stopped? Yes, somehow. But that was dramatic. And around the outside comes Steve Roberts trying to take second place away. Now, how are we going to work this one out? Because we're going to turn left in a minute at Clark's, and Aidan Hills has the inside line, but Roberts on the outside has the momentum. I think Steve will probably back out of it and try and maybe get the better exit from the corner, which is what he's going to do, is he? Well, sort of finds his way back in line. Luke Herbert, meanwhile, is finally looking to try and make some progress, because James Blake Baldwin in front of him, I think, has got past Simon Baldwin, and now so too is Luke Herbert. So they are on top 2 of the championship, starting to make their way towards the front of the field. Top 3, really, when you include Jack Harding in there. Oh, leader with a mistake there. 2 wheels out in the dirt for Greensmith as he came out of the Scotsman's corner. But he didn't seem to be losing too much momentum up the hill, actually. So Aidan Hills in second place with a mind turned more towards defence than attack for the time being. Coming down towards the hairpin, the slipstream easily closes right back in on the race leader and tries to draw alongside. Does more than try, he does draw alongside. But this is fraught with danger. Not only can you get shoved out onto the dirt, which happens to him, but you risk leaving the door open for Steve Roberts to come through on the inside, which I think is what's going to happen. Steve Roberts going for second place again, but then Aidan Hills' car really good in a straight line. Cars all built to the same very tight set of regulations, but if you just pick up a whiff of a toe from the car in front, it makes all the difference. Luke Herbert, by the way, only a couple of laps ago, was saying he was still stuck down in 8th place. Well, he's not anymore, because the blue number 1 car has found a way past Jack Sycamore as well now. So Luke Herbert there is in 5th position, and James Blake Baldwin is up into 4th. So the real heavy hitters are definitely starting to make their move to the front. Out through the left-hander at Scotsman again, out over the curb. Simon Baldwin there just starting to fall a little way back in this group. Come out onto the pit straight, and Herbert now looks to the inside of James Blake Baldwin. Black and white warning flag being given to somebody, we know not who. That will be presumably for exceeding the track limits. We head down towards the hairpin though, and here comes the move maybe from Blake Baldwin. Yes, around the outside of Steve Roberts, who gets into the back very gently of Aidan Hills. That holds up Blake Baldwin, and so Luke Herbert briefly gets alongside him, and then Luke ducks back into line. Who is it here there or something? We see particularly rapid acceleration there out of the hairpin. Getting a notification on the screen of a 10-second penalty for Gary Townsend, car 223, who's running down the field anyway. That's for being out of position at the start. I thought I saw him creeping, but that was a big moment there for Steve Roberts coming out of Clark's. That puts him on the back foot in towards the chicane, and he's off on the grass again. Pulls off a bit of his rear bumper. He's still in third place though, but with dirt all over the tyres. Blake Baldwin trying to seize the advantage and get to the inside into Scotsman. There's no way through. Well, that will be interesting because Roberts may not have gained an advantage by running off the track, but he certainly didn't lose any time, did he? He's held on to his third position. Across the line, we're about to come again. Oh no, that's a shame. That's number 69, George Grant, off into the gravel at Clark's. I think that may require a safety car. Leaders down into the hairpin though, and Aidan Hill's looking to the outside, trying to get the switchback maybe on the extra corner. Side by side behind him as Steve Roberts continues to get his elbows out and puts James Blake Baldwin in the gravel coming out of the hairpin. That brings the championship leader Luke Herbert up alongside, and Luke this time gets his nose in front. Is he going to be able to go through? The answer is yes. So Luke Herbert into fourth, but hands out of the cockpit. Yellow flags in the marshal's post because George Grant's car is going to need extricating from the gravel trap, so the safety car has been called for. So that puts everything on hold for the time being. Still over half the race to go though, 11.25 minutes, and as ever, Mazda MX-5 Super Cup providing us with some top quality entertainment, but I'm really impressed here with Luke Herbert because he must have been listening to me, criticising him because he hadn't made any progress in the early laps, but he all of a sudden just shot through the order, has got himself into fourth, and this safety car is perfectly timed for him because there was a bit of a gap to the top three cars in front of him that he would have had to have closed. Well, he doesn't have to close that now because the safety car is going to do that for him. So you can see there the gap between Roberts and Herbert that had opened out. So Luke Herbert will now attempt to keep some warmth in the tyres and make a plan of attack for when the race gets underway again. Done. Well, now the car's starting to get a bit hot and bothered. Not done, George Grant, excuse me. I think George probably is getting a bit hot and bothered in the car as well. He'll be frustrated that his third race of the weekend has ended in this fashion. Not sure how he got there, whether it was self-inflicted or he was given a bit of assistance, but the car is no doubt in a dangerous position. You can see why, because Clark's, like most corners at Knockhill, is completely blind in this direction, and you don't want to arrive there side by side with somebody, miss the yellow flag maybe, make contact and end up going off into the gravel trap and collecting the stationary car. So George Grant staying in the car just to steer the car during the towing procedure, and it may well be that they tow him out of the gravel and send him back on his way under his own steam maybe. Simon Baldwin, Sam Tatler next in line, and then the number 73 machine next. Having a good run actually is Lewis Carter. Lewis Carter into 10th place. Inside the top 10 is Lewis for the first time, I believe, ever in Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. How's Colin Bysouth getting on? Colin Bysouth from the back of the grid is 12th, and Carl Garnett from the back of the grid is 14th. So this safety car will play into their hands as well, of course, as they try to work their way further up the top 10. See that George Grant's car is out of the gravel trap, and so hopefully only one more lap behind the safety car required, and then we'll be able to get going again with just over, hopefully, a third of the race to go. There's Bysouth, the black and white zebra car, and then the orange and white of Garnett. There the two I've been watching coming from the back of the grid. Carl Garnett would be frustrated, qualified on the front row for race 2, and you really sense that he would have a chance to get some podium results this weekend. He, slowly but surely over the last 6 months or so, has started to put himself towards the front of the field more and more often, but just hasn't really had the look, to be honest, to convert promising grid positions into good, strong race results. So you can see now Weeby's tyres back in the pack. He'll inherit a position as a result of Gary Townsend's 10-second penalty for that false start. Being out of position at the start is the technical wording. Lights out on the safety car though, so the field starts to bunch up, some more haste than others, but the leaders are certainly very tightly bunched, and they're likely to stay that way when we do go racing. Greensmith leads the way, Aidan Hill's in second. It is third place for Steve Roberts, fourth Luke Herbert, fifth for James Blake Baldwin, and sixth for Jack Harding, 6 of the biggest names in this championship, and they have 7 3/4 minutes left to settle it as the accelerator pedal is pushed hard to the floor for the race leader Johnny Greensmith, and he and Aidan Hills have already got a bit of a jump on the rest of the pack behind. Out across the start-finish line they go immediately to the defensive inside line. They're pushing each other over the hill, look. That's front drafting at its finest as they try to work together to build a gap over the rest. Of course, that's in Aidan's best interest to do that because it alleviates the pressure from the cars behind. That might just be a perfectly executed switchback manoeuvre that he's tried there, but no, I don't think he quite had the speed off the corner. No, Greensmith hangs on. Hills then staying with him in second. If they can keep working together and break the toe, then they can settle in between themselves rather than Aidan having to watch his mirrors and try to overtake the car in front of him. Out through Clarks they go, back onto the short straight in towards the chicane. Johnny Greensmith continuing to hold on. And far away the hairpin is the best place on the circuit to try and launch an attack, but Aidan's been looking at the inside here a few times into Scotsman. Oh, he's very sideways. Aidan Hills, that loses him all sorts of momentum. And is that going to allow Roberts up the inside in towards Duffers? Yes, it does. Roberts is sideways, and Luke Herbert makes it 3 wide. Aidan Hills out onto the grass, and Luke Herbert, the championship leader, does not need to get involved in this, but he's determined to get through and win all 3 races, and he could do it, because through all of that, he's got through into second position, or has he? Steve Roberts fights back around the outside, very late on the brakes. Can he hang on? The answer is no. Through goes Herbert. Through goes Blake Baldwin, through goes everyone really, because Jack Harding's going to try and follow him through as well, and he will have the inside line down into Clarks. But Luke Herbert, remarkably, double race winner already this weekend, is up there into second position. Now what can he do about Johnny Greensmith out in front of him though, because that's given Johnny the best part of 1.5 seconds worth of an advantage. There is Aidan Hills, so he did recover from that. But you just can't run side by side through Duffers Dip, because the car on the inside is always going to get sideways, especially if they're rear-wheel drive. We saw it in the Porsche race earlier on. If you get sideways on that inside line, you do very well to save it. And to be honest, Steve Roberts did do a good job of saving that. But Aidan, thinking that he was going to lose it, took avoiding action out onto the grass, and that allowed Herbert on the inside of the pair of them. So the lead gap comes down straight away, actually, because Luke Herbert is the only man doing sub-1 minute laps. There's a move there attempted by Steve Roberts up the inside of Jack Harding. That was the last of the late breakers, and he might, he's not quite alongside him out of the corner, as Luke Herbert is gesticulating furiously to James Blake Baldwin. Work together, let's work together and try to go after the race leader. Aidan Hills there trying to join in the fun as well. He's alongside Roberts now, going down into Clarks, wrong side of the road on the way in. What about on the way out though? He's made the switchback manoeuvre work this time. I think he gets to the inside of the chicane. Can't run side by side through here, and Steve Roberts knows it, so he backs out of it. And unfortunately, Steve's race is starting to unravel, rather like his little bumper, which is gently peeling off after his grassy moment earlier on. You can see the big dent in the bumper as well, which is probably the contact that loosened it in the first place. So pack out onto the pit straight we go again. There's Carl Garnett flashing through. And Colin Bysouth is now into the top 10. He's in 10th position, but this is for the lead of the race. Luke Herbert to the outside line, in towards the Taylor's hairpin. Johnny Greensmith is going to be one of the harder people to pass, because Johnny hasn't won around this championship for an awfully long time, and he will be determined to fend off the reigning champion Luke Herbert if at all possible. And of course he's held him off for long enough now that James Blake Baldwin has closed on the pair of them, so Luke is now in that position of trying to attack and trying to defend as well. Just under 4 minutes remaining in the race, there's still plenty of time for things to change, but can Johnny Greensmith fend the reigning champion and the double race winner this weekend off? I thought that Luke was going to have a little to the inside there in Scotland, so it was not going to happen there in the end. So he's going to make their way back up the hill in towards Duffers. Look at that wide line in there for Herbert, but he actually misses the apex there, couldn't quite get the car turned in. Still carries good speed off the corner, the slipstream does the rest, so he's likely to be close enough to get alongside at the end of the straight. The question is, does he want to? Because if he goes to the outside line, then Blake Baldwin is there to take advantage, and yeah, Herbert has to defend rather than attack. Blake Baldwin goes to the outside, and look at Jack Harding, he's part of this now. He's looking for 3rd place. He's up alongside Blake Baldwin, but James will have the momentum with the outside line, and so Jack Harding falls back into line. Aidan Hills is also right there with them now as well, so it's almost a 5-way fight for the lead with 3 minutes still to go. So with the right-hander there at Hislops, into the left-hander at Clarks. 5 cars, and you could throw a handkerchief over a lot of them into the chicane. Some jostling going on, but no real attempts to overtake, because it's just not an overtaking opportunity, the chicane. This corner potentially is, though. Is anyone going to dive up the inside? No. Keeping their powder dry for the time being. They've all had a go at getting past Johnny Greensmith. No one, as of yet, has been able to do it, and it says a lot about Greensmith's defensive driving that Luke Herbert, who has carved his way through like the proverbial hot knife through butter during the second half of this race, has not yet been able to find a way past to the outside, back into the line. They're all just sort of hugging the white line now. The only man who doesn't have to worry about watching his mirrors is the man at the back of the queue, and that's Aidan Hills, who can take that nice wide line into the hairpin in the aim of getting the run off the corner. Simon Baldwin and Steve Roberts aren't far behind, not quite on terms with this leading quintet. So Luke Herbert tries to get the inside here into Clark's. Is there a gap? Well, almost, but Luke very mindful of the fact that he's won 2 races already this weekend and that he doesn't need to get himself involved in any contact. I don't think he's going to take a big risk here to get the race lead, but if there's an opportunity presents itself, then he will go for it. And what he's seeing in his mirrors will be giving him hope, because they're starting to battle over 3rd place there. He saw that time before James Blake Baldwin was busily defending into the chicane from Jack Harding, and it looked as though maybe that was going to allow the top 2 to make a break, but it's almost impossible to make a break in MX5 racing. Back across the line, they're about to go then with a minute and a half to go, so 2 more laps for Luke Herbert to try and find a way through. The inside line again. Aidan Hills once more is the man who books the trend and goes for the outside line, hoping they all get sort of held up on the inside. He does get himself alongside Jack Harding, but Jack Harding leans on him and puts him in the gravel coming out of the hairpin, and that was always what was likely to happen there for Aidan. And so Simon Baldwin comes through into 5th, Steve Roberts comes through into 6th, and unfortunately Aidan Hills, a weekend that promised so much, is not even going by. He yields a podium in that he finished 2nd yesterday, but really he would have been looking at 3 podium finishes and probably race wins, but it just hasn't quite panned out the way that he was hoping. Back up through the Butcher's left-hander into Scotsman, up the hill again, and back with Greensmith now. They've never really left him, have they? But can Luke Herbert find a way through? 35 seconds left on the clock. 1 lap remains in round number 6 of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, and Luke Herbert is almost pushing Johnny Greensmith over the hill. Does he dare go to the outside though and risk losing positions? The answer is going to be no. He stays in line. Blake Baldwin still 3rd, and look at Jack Harding, look at that, that's what you call a switchback manoeuvre. Went so wide on the way in and then so tight on the way through the hairpin that he almost shortcutted the corner altogether. Behind Aidan Hills is trying to get back alongside Steve Roberts. That will be to retake 6th position, and they are side by side, but Roberts has the inside line for the left-hander that's coming up. He locks up a break though, runs a bit deep, but that sort of ushers Aidan Hills out wide as well. So back into the chicane, and a leap of faith over the top of the hill. I don't think we're likely to see any change of the order now unless we get some slipstream into the line, which is possible because it's quite a long run to the finish line here at Knockhill, but it looks as though Johnny Greensmith is going to come through and take his first race victory of 2018 to put himself well and truly into championship contention. Johnny Greensmith takes the checkered flag. 2nd place goes the way of Luke Herbert, and 3rd for James Blake Baldwin, with Jack Harding 4th. Simon Baldwin 5th, so both Baldwins inside the top 5. Steve Roberts dropped down to 6th. He'll be a bit frustrated with that. Aidan Hills will be equally frustrated, if not more so, with 7th place. Sam Tatler 8th, Jack Sycamore 9th, and rounding out the top 10 was car number 73, Lewis Carter. A fantastic race though, a brilliant drive by Johnny Greensmith to take the race victory, and I think he's quite happy with that. So he's swerving this way and that on the way back to the pit lane on the in-lap in celebration. And we have been treated to another 3 sensational races in the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. They will be back at Brands Hatch in a few weeks' time. They are part of the TCR UK support package all year long, so they and the Formula Ford 1600 National Championship will be with TCR at all of their rounds this year. And I know they're all really looking forward to some of the circuits coming up. Knockhill was always going to be a real highlight. Brands Hatch next time out, a real mecca for motor racing fans. So Johnny Greensmith takes the victory. Luke Herbert in 2nd. James Blake Baldwin is 3rd. 4th place for Jack Harding. The top 4 covered by 0.6 of a second after 20 minutes of racing. Simon Baldwin is 5th from beg your pardon, Steve Roberts in 6th, Aidan Hill 7th, Sam Tatler 8th, Jack Sycamore 9th, and rounding out the top 10 was Lewis Carter. And it's 11th for Carl Garnett and 12th Colin Bysouth. They were inseparable all weekend, weren't they? 13th for Nick Dunn, 14th place for Will Stevenson, and 15th for Alec Livesley. 16th is James Kell, 17th Darren Stapleton, 18th for Christian White after mechanical dramas in race 2, 19th place for Tom Parker after a retirement in the first race of the weekend, and rounding out the top 20, man we haven't really mentioned, Nick Rutter, car number 99. We lost, Gary Townsend had a time penalty, he's 21st, Alex King 22nd, George Grant the only retirement after bringing out that safety car. So the top 3 make their way down into Parc Ferme, and Johnny Greensmith, who is never the most emotional of characters, but I think that he'll be well chuffed with that, because that win's been a long time coming, and Johnny knows that he can do it. He knows he can fight for championships. We've been saying that all along, but there always seems to be something that gets in his way and prevents him from achieving what we all know he's capable of. But here he is, a race winner at Knockhill in the 3rd race on the reverse direction circuit. He takes the helmet off. Jack Harding is there as well as Luke Herbert, and also down there ready to chat to all 3 of them, or certainly our race winner, is Bryn Lucas.
Yeah, I am here with the race winner, John Greensmith. Now that was racing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just a bit. A little bit tight, especially Aidan, who were behind me most of the race. And it's just, you've just got to defend around here, definitely. And there's only a couple of overtaking movers and that, but yeah, glad to win.
Every time you came past me on the pit wall, you had a passenger with you, literally right behind him. There's probably about half a foot, if that.
Yeah, all the time. I'm not getting a good run up on that last corner. But I thought, right, if I can hug that inside line down there, I'll be all right. Should be.
And how tough is it to keep ahead of Luke?
Oh, very tough. I think he made it easy for me, that, actually, because I think he was thinking about championship points and stuff. So, but no, that's off to him. He didn't do anything daft or anything like that. So, but glad to just win that race.
Well, he may have made it easy for you, but it didn't look like it was an easy job. Well done. That was a phenomenal race and a phenomenal win. Congratulations.
Thank you. Harrison Stanley, got it.
Well, that's Johnny Greensmith then, a real character, plenty of those racing in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. They've put on 3 fantastic races. Here are some of the highlights from a breathless 3rd encounter. Greensmith led the first lap and led the last lap, and you'd think, therefore, that it was a fairly easy win, but it really wasn't. The battling behind him was intense all the way. Aidan Hills was very lively in the early going, trying to get the lead away before some of the established names closed in behind. Steve Roberts was also entertaining, trying several outside manoeuvres before George Grant ended up in the gravel trap and out of the race. Safety car came out, and when it came back in, Greensmith had to try and deal with a safety car restart. Kept Aidan Hills behind him initially before this dramatic moment. 3 abreast through Duffers was always going to end badly, but not for Luke Herbert, who came past everyone into 2nd place. Blake Baldwin and Jack Harding then also made their way rather robustly past Aidan Hills, who ended up in the gravel trap. It was tight at the front, but Greensmith was able to hang on to take victory in race number 3. Well, we're going to take a short break now before we're back with more racing later on. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll keep you posted with what's coming up next very soon.